And it's time for today's Business Matters. Nissan's new CEO is mapping out its restructuring plan, and that includes slashing vehicle development time. Right now, it takes about 55 months to completely develop a new vehicle. Ivan Espinosa said he wants to cut that down to 37 months. Espinosa is expected to refocus the automaker's priorities on developing vehicles more in tune with customers' tastes. He's working to steer the company out of a deep sales slump. Nissan has cut its earnings estimates 3 times for the year ending this month. As part of Nissan's restructuring plans, the automaker plans to cut 9,000 jobs and also close 3 plants, including one in Thailand. A test flight in the works. Airbus is entering the testing phase for a new engine with visible fan blades. The company hopes this plane will succeed in its best-selling A320 family of jets. Airbus will use a modified A380 Super Jumbo with an open fan engine. And this is to see the best way to power the next generation of single-aisle aircrafts. The new kind of engine is supposed to be more fuel efficient than existing models. Current aircraft use duct fan engines, which are enclosed in a casing. This is part of the global aviation industry's goal of making a net zero carbon contribution by 2050. The tests are expected to happen toward the end of the decade. A network of fake companies operated by a secretive Chinese tech firm are allegedly recruiting laid-off U.S. government workers. Researcher Max Lesser of think tank Foundation for Defense of Democracies uncovered the scheme. He said it follows techniques used by past intelligence operations. He said once recruited, the government workers could be asked to share sensitive information or be asked to recruit other targets. The job ads were posted on Craigslist, LinkedIn, and other job sites. CNN reported last month that China and Russia are targeting disgruntled U.S. government employees. Lesser says his current findings could be concrete evidence of such operations. And shaky relations between China and Canada have been hit with a little jolt. Prime Minister Mark Carney said that China does not share Canada's values when it comes to trade. He warned that Canada needs to be very careful about boosting bilateral commercial ties. Carney said there's certain activity that Canada could have with China, but explained that it has to be very careful, very deliberate, and needs to meet Canadian standards. At a press conference, the Prime Minister said that there are Asian partners with shared values that Canada can build deeper ties with, but that does not include China. This comes at a time when both nations have imposed tariffs on each other's products. From your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to the boy who lived, we now know who will be overseeing the next Bond film. Amazon MGM Studios has named Amy Pascal and David Heyman as the new producers. Pascal is known for her work in the 3 latest Spider-Man titles, and Heyman has worked on the Harry Potter saga since 2001. Now, in a post on X, the duo said they were humbled to follow the footsteps of siblings Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson. Amazon took creative control of the Bond franchise under a new joint venture with longtime rights holders Broccoli and Wilson. Fans are now waiting for the 26th Bond film and for the reveal of who dons the iconic tuxedo next. The U.S. has added over 50 Chinese entities to its export restrictions list. Among them was China's leading cloud computing and big data service provider. Here's a closer look.
Washington has added dozens of firms to its export blacklist. Most are in China, but others are in Taiwan, Iran, Pakistan, South Africa and the UAE. Among the most high-profile additions are 6 subsidiaries of Inspur Group, China's biggest cloud computing provider. They have been targeted for helping develop supercomputers for the country's military. Inspur Group itself was placed on the list 2 years ago. The US blacklist is meant to restrict Beijing's ability to develop cutting-edge systems for its armed forces. The US also wants to disrupt Iran's procurement of drones and other defense gear, and to slow its development of ballistic missiles and nuclear technology. Once firms are added to the blacklist, US companies are barred from selling to them without obtaining a license, which is almost certain to be denied. When Inspur Group was first placed on the list in 2023, executives from US chipmakers AMD and Nvidia were questioned about their dealings with the firm. On Tuesday, it wasn't clear if the US businesses had continued to supply subsidiaries of the Chinese company.
Meanwhile, a new startup is cruising into the e-bike industry. Rivian's new spin-off also will be focusing on micromobility. And these are lightweight vehicles, often electric-powered, like e-bikes and e-scooters. Rivian has been working on micromobility products using the company's electric vehicle technology. It filed their trademark 3 years ago for bicycles, electric bikes, and related parts. Also, will operate independently with minority ownership from Rivian. The micromobility startup is expected to reveal its products later this year, and the company plans to expand globally with its initial flagship products meant for the US and Europe set for 2026. And that's going to be followed by tailor-made EVs for Asia and South America. No boycott of US goods in Europe's biggest economy. Germany's government has rejected calls for the boycott amid disagreements over tariffs. Some have called on Europe to replace US products with home-based brands, similar to an initiative in Canada. But the German government says it wants to foster good trade relations. An association representing German importers and exporters is expressing a similar sentiment. The group said it supports dialogue with the US over trade rather than starting a cycle of boycotts, tariffs, and counter-tariffs. Calling all fans of the TV series The Office. You can now channel your love for the show at a new Chili's in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The restaurant chain is opening a new retro restaurant there that pays homage to the show. It's going to feature decor from iconic Office moments, including an early episode where Dunder Mifflin employees gather at Chili's to celebrate. The restaurant has also enlisted several Office actors to star in the ads. This is Chili's first location in Scranton, despite several memorable appearances on the show. It opens April 7th, 20 years after the iconic episode featuring the restaurant first aired. It's BYOE, Bring Your Own Eggs, for Walmart's holiday meal kits this year. The retail giant announced that it will be skipping the eggs, and this is because of course, the ongoing shortages and price hikes brought on by the bird flu outbreak. Eggs were a key part in last year's kit. A promotional image showed 18 large brown eggs as part of the box. A spokesperson said this year's basket doesn't include ingredients that are typically already found in a pantry, like salt, butter, milk, and eggs. Walmart's grocery revenue rose in the quarter that ended in January. The company noted revenue was partly boosted by egg price inflation. NBA star Steph Curry is teaming up with Michelle Obama. Their team up will usher in a new, healthier sports drink. The drink is called Pelzi Hydration. The drink will have no added sugar or artificial sweeteners, less sodium than rivals, and a full daily dose of vitamin C. Curry said in a statement, quote, "We've created something with smart ingredients and unbeatable flavor so people can fuel their bodies the right way, no nonsense, and no shortcuts." The drinks will be available in California at Walmart, Albertsons, and Safeway, and sold nationwide through Amazon. Each 16.9-ounce bottle will be priced at $2.29 and contains 70 calories. And there's consensus from the intelligence community. America's biggest threat right now is China. Intelligence agencies published their annual threat assessment yesterday. Here are the biggest findings on China.
At this point,
a new report from United States intelligence chiefs says the #1 threat to the United States comes from Communist China. The annual threat assessment says China has the ability to hit the U.S. with conventional weapons, compromise infrastructure through cyber attacks, and target its assets in space. It notes the Chinese army is expanding its capabilities and continuing to establish military bases overseas. The report says China has the capability to conduct long-range precision strikes on U.S. territories in the Pacific and as far as Hawaii and Alaska. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said Tuesday, China has heavily invested in stealth aircraft, hypersonic weapons, and nuclear arms.
While it would like to develop and maintain positive ties with the United States and the Trump administration to advance its interests and avoid conflict, China is building its military capability in part to gain advantage in the event of a military conflict with the United States around the issue of China's efforts toward unification with the Republic of China, or Taiwan.
Gabbard's remarks came during her testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee during a hearing on worldwide threats to the U.S. The intelligence community report also says China is the most active and persistent cyber threat to the U.S. It noted that if Beijing believed a major conflict with Washington was imminent, it could launch aggressive cyber operations on critical U.S. infrastructure.
The critical infrastructure is a key area of concern, given what we know has already been exploited, these asymmetric attacks that have been placed within our critical infrastructure that are of serious concern, given how they could be exploited, especially during a time of conflict.
The report also says China is seeking to displace the U.S. as the top AI power by 2030. It suggests the Chinese military could use AI to generate misinformation. It says China has stolen hundreds of gigabytes of intellectual property to train its AI models.
We know that they are experiencing a boom in their generative AI capability and are competing very heavily against our own AI capabilities. Obviously, AI can and will be used across a multitude of every sector.
CIA Director John Radcliffe told the committee that China has only made intermittent efforts to stop the flow of precursor chemicals fueling the U.S. fentanyl crisis. He says that's because China is reluctant to crack down on lucrative businesses. The intelligence agency said China's long-term goal was to expand access to Greenland's natural resources. The report says it aims to use Greenland as a key strategic foothold in the Arctic. Still, the report says China faces daunting domestic challenges, corruption, demographic imbalances, and economic slowdown. It says Chinese officials appear to be bracing for more economic friction with the U.S. while looking for ways to prevent major escalation.
Dollar Tree is parting ways with Family Dollar, and this comes after purchasing the discount retailer a decade ago. Two private equity firms are set to buy Family Dollar for $1 billion. And that's just a fraction of the $9 billion the Dollar Tree spent buying it in 2015. The deal is pending regulatory approval, but is expected to go through next quarter. Tesla will soon start selling its electric cars in Saudi Arabia. The company says it will host a launch event in the kingdom on April 10th, showcasing its EVs as well as its AI and robotics technologies. The move into the Gulf's biggest economy comes amid slumping global sales for the car company, but gaining market share in oil-rich Saudi Arabia could be a challenge. Electric vehicles make up just 1% of all car sales in the country. Okay, now moving on to Wall Street, had a very strong performance in 2024, and more than 200,000 people working in the securities industry have benefited. Based on estimates just out, Wall Street bonuses hit a record high, according to the Office of New York State Comptroller. The average bonus paid to employees was nearly $245,000, and that's up 31.5% from the year before. That's 3 times higher than the $80,000 median U.S. household income reported by the U.S. Census for 2023. The big bonus payouts follow a 90% jump in Wall Street profits last year. Napster has been acquired. Yes, Napster still exists for those of you who remember it. The company started out decades ago, offering free peer-to-peer music downloads. It's now being turned into a digital space for music creators to interact with fans and offer a variety of services. And TD Sean Marshall has more.
Napster is attempting to come back into the metaverse space, a company that possibly started the downfall of CD sales for the music industry in the early 2000s by offering free music downloads. That is, until being sued by music industry artists and sold, then eventually merged into a music streaming service. Now, Infinite Reality, a technology and entertainment company, announced today that they've entered into a definitive agreement to acquire the iconic online music brand Napster for $207 million. They plan to reimagine Napster using extended reality, or XR, creating a social music platform that prioritizes active fan engagement over passive listening, allowing artists to connect with, own, and monetize the relationship with their fans. According to an Infinite Reality's press release, the next level of Napster will create branded 3D virtual spaces where fans can enjoy virtual concerts, social listening parties, and other immersive and community-based experiences, sell both physical and virtual merchandise, exclusive digital content, and event tickets, and integrate gamification to increase fan engagement and loyalty. If you're wondering what Napster has been up to over the years, Napster is now a fully licensed independent music service. Over the past 2 decades, Napster has paid over $1 billion to artists and songwriters worldwide. It's one of the longest operating digital music services in the world. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And stocks ended sharply lower today. It was dragged down by losses in Nvidia and Tesla. And this comes as investors awaited information about long-promised U.S. tariffs on automotive imports. So President Trump is set to announce plans for car industry tariffs at a press conference today. And it's potentially widening the global trade war that may be kicked off at the beginning of this year. Auto industry experts expect the move to drive up prices, and production as well may slow down. The main focus later this week, though, will be the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, and this is the Federal Reserve's favorite inflation gauge, due out on Friday. All right, that's it for today's Business Matters.